we were in compliance with the code. We had 2 public hearings on the calendar, and we'll vote next week on the one we're going to choose. Okay, let's move to the administrative section, please. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Mr. Curry, Mr. Willis. Ms. Lewis.
Okay, item A, the following adult student to ride the school bus. Item B, to approve 8 additional employment days for the JROTC instructors, Dallas Plumley and Craig Atkins, June 13th through the 20th, 2014, to attend a cadet leadership camp. The salaries are paid through cost share agreement with the U.S. Army. Item C, a memorandum of understanding with RISA II and Leslie K. Tyree to provide general legal services for the 2014-2015 school year according to the terms of the memorandum and prorated charges chart. Item D, school volunteers who on occasion may also serve as bus chaperones will provide transportation for students to and from athletic events, academic competitions, or school outings who have provided proof of private vehicle liability insurance and have completed the volunteer orientation. Item E, adoption of a resolution to authorize the application for a Governor's Community Participation Program grant for improvements to the softball field at Lincoln County High School. Item F, a contracted service agreement with Glade Springs Resort to provide accommodations for Hamlin Pre-K-8 professional development, July the 27th through the 31st, 2014, according to the terms of the contract. This is paid through school improvement grant funds. Item G, a contracted service agreement with Stonewall Resort to provide accommodations for West Hamlin Elementary professional development, July the 28th through July 31st, 2014, according to the terms of the contract, also paid through school improvement grant funds. Item H, a contracted service agreement with Glade Springs Resort to provide accommodations for Midway Elementary professional development, June 18th through the 20th, 2014, according to the terms of the contract, and that is paid for through the Title I support for priority schools. Any questions?
Questions? Item E. Now, this is part of the goal of astroturfing the softball field, right? Now, Brittany, did you tell me that where did I hear that this would go and be with money that they already had? Were you the one who told me that?
As part of the description in this grant that is being submitted, Mr. Mickey talked with the code, and he submitted a paragraph to it, and it find it.
I mean, the cost of it is more than this $10,000,
Yes,
isn't it?
Lincoln County High School softball is seeking this $10,000 grant to complete our final phase of field renovations. We've used this grant money to install artificial grass in our outfield playing area. This will improve the playing surface of the field, help prevent injuries, as well as eliminate most potential rainouts due to the poor field conditions. This grant should give us the necessary funds to complete the project, as we have already raised $65,000. We project the cost to be approximately $75,000. We plan to install the artificial grass at the conclusion of our season during the summer of 2014. That was your Mr.
$75,000 project.
Total, yes.
Okay. I just use this opportunity for a little commentary here. Once again, if you could just share, Trish, with the principals, and they can share with their boosters, clubs, and everybody else, that when they want to alter the school grounds or facilities in any way, we would appreciate it if they would come before the board, share that with us, what they're wanting to do, and then make sure that we, okay, because I'm sure 99% of the time we're going to be in agreement with them, and then let them proceed, rather than, and I'm not demeaning these people at all, rather than going ahead and getting monies and all this, and then doing something that there's always the chance that we might not agree with.
report. I did that today at our principals
Good.
meeting.
Good.
And I did explain that to the principals and told them basically exactly what you said, that they would need to come and present, their project to you guys before they proceeded to try to get any type of funding so that you all would have the opportunity
It
to
is
have the
pretty
discussion.
embarrassing to have someone say, well, your ball team have received this much money from this group, and it's like, you're looking like, what are you gonna do with it? What are they doing, you know? I'd like to know beforehand, before they approach people and learn in the paper that they received all this money. And we didn't even know they were trying to get it.
Well, we had much discussion, so I think they're very clear about what, that they need to do that, so.
Because if Brenda just read that, or we got, I didn't know exactly what was gonna be astroturf. I mean, I think it's probably gonna be the outfield, but I didn't know whether they're gonna do the outfield, the infield, or, what. But that's just an example. Whenever, because some of these projects might be bigger in nature, they want to do something really big. Throughout lobbying legislators and everybody else trying to get money, and like Carol said, it could be embarrassing to everybody if they go out and they do acquire the money, and then we say, hey, we don't want to do that. But anyway, you've got to take care of it.
Certainly.
And I'm
And
sure
the
they'll.
discussion today.
Good, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else in the administrative section? Anybody have anything else that they want to mention? Not a coffee.
I was just gonna question section B. I missed a meeting and know that this was something that we had talked about before, and I'm not sure if we've addressed approving the 8 additional employment days. Are we paying for all 8 of those days for both employees?
It's cost share. I mean, Army pays for half the cost and we pick up the.
That's the way it is with all their salary during the regular.
There's no other additional costs related to travel, related expenses, the Army pays for everything else. There's 10 students that participate.
It's a week-long camp.
Yes. 8 days.
So what's our rough cost? Our rough 1/2 for both of these gentlemen for a week?
You're looking at around, plus or benefits, I'm just shooting from the hip. You're talking.
Yeah, just ballpark.
Because Bertie's not here, so we can usually designate.
I didn't even throw a number out there.
Yeah, because they have different salaries.
Yeah, right, I was ballparking it in my head.
Well, you're a math
I was gonna
statistician.
say somewhere around $4,000.
But you did say that we're not paying any, for the 10 students, we're not paying any of their expenses
None
to
of their
go,
expenses.
lodging, or even for these gentlemen either, right?
Correct.
The only cost we have are the 8 days of salary.
Right.
Okay. And, we would hope that the day might come where these 8 days could be a part of their regular employment term. That would be our goal.
That's our hope.
Okay, thanks. Okay, nothing further, I call the question. All in favor of the administrative section? Is that all yes?
Yes.
All yes, thanks. Okay, let's go to finance, got a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Baker beat you by a fraction, Mr. Baker. Second.
Let him second.
Second.
Mr. Wilkins. Mr. Mickey.
Item A, scheduled invoices totaling $527,583.92. Item B is budget transfers totaling $35,745. See attachments for both of those items, and any questions that you would have, you can refer those to Ms. Gandy.
Well, you're really good at that, aren't you?
Well, I'll get there.
Okay, does anybody have anything to do? Okay, if not, then all yes vote?
Yes.
Okay, all yes on the finance also. Can we get the personnel section, have a motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Curry made the motion, Ms. Smith second. Tricia, you talk about
Okay. You have a revised schedule. Sean, did you get the? Okay.
Thank you.
Section A, there were no changes. That was the employment of a short and/or a long-term substitute professional personnel. Section B, there was a name added in Section B, on B4, you will note. This is a transfer of professional personnel. Section C, no changes, is the employment of substitute service personnel. Section D, no changes, employment of short and/or a long-term substitute professional personnel. Section E, there were some changes in Section E. Transfer of service personnel. E1 remained the same. E2 remained the same. E3, you will notice we added the word itinerant for the special education aid 3. E4, also the term itinerant was added. E5, the term itinerant was added. E6, the term itinerant was added. E7, there was no change. E8, the term itinerant was added. Those were the only changes to that section. And then Section F, employment of extracurricular personnel. No changes were made. And Section G, resignation and/or retirement. And it's noted under the effective date, whether it was a resignation or a retirement. And then to abolish the service personnel job description for coordinator and/or facilitator of Medicaid billing effective immediately.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions, comments? Trish, could you just give us a brief synopsis of why we have these people are itinerant? And
Okay.
just kind of refresh our memory.
Okay, we post special education aides as itinerant now because if there is a reason for, let's say some students do not come back to school, you know, we have some at Lincoln County High School that could graduate even though they could come back for the 13th year. Their parents may choose not to send them, or for various reasons, a student may move out of the county. And if we have someone that has been hired as an itinerant, we're able to move them to another school in order to fulfill needs that we would have at that school without hiring an additional person. Also, with the new law, if we have until October the 1st, if we have surplus aides, as we could for certain classes, and we need them to go to another school due to enrollment, we are allowed to move them if they were posted and hired as itinerant. So that's a change.
Does it also include the autistic aspect of that, where the aide could follow the student from one grade to the next, from one school to the next?
Yes, if there is no other reason, like during personnel season, if we're not reducing numbers of staff or having to transfer others due to students moving away or students graduating, they would be able to. If there aren't any other reasons, that person could move from school to school, grade to grade, with a student.
So if I use, let's say, Janie McComas, for example, here, she's itinerant, but she's going to start at Duval.
Yes.
But this student, let's assume she had a student there in and that student eventually goes to the high school, she could go to the high school too, right?
If there's no.
If there weren't any problems like
If-
you
yeah,
mentioned,
right,
or not
yes.
problems, but
Yes,
factors.
But
Yes.
could a more senior aide who had lost a student the previous year use their seniority to take that position?
it's a possibility.
That's
And
what-
we would have to take individual situations into effect during personnel season.
And then that's the point I think I wanted to make, is people have stated that they have a right to have an aide follow their child from beginning until end, and I don't think that is always necessarily the case. And what you're telling me is that is not the case,
That is not the case.
that there are reasons why someone could bump or take a position, reasons beyond your control or beyond our control.
Correct.
And I think that's what she was telling us there with the personnel, you know,
Mhm.
we have to decrease staff, and somebody
Right.
gets affected by it, but, okay. Okay, anything else on the personnel?
Yep, that's it.
All right. Then all yes vote?
Yes.
Yes. All yes, thank you. Okay, we'll go down to the comments and concerns section. I'm looking around, see if anything, okay, I've got two things. You have any? Ladies, before-
Yeah.
It's a stretch on me. One, soccer, one of my favorite topics. You know, we've talked about the extension of the soccer field and all that, and I talked to Sean before we started here this evening, not realizing if you went out through here the other on Saturday, I mean, you would have thought Kentucky was playing. But when is the window, I was talking to Sean, when's the window that we're gonna have to do this? Because we have, you know, our high school soccer starts, and we kind of thought maybe around
First of
August. August.
Yeah, but they have a conditioning, 2-week conditioning that's at the end of June this year.
Oh, really?
Which could take,
Didn't
what's
know that. I didn't know that.
What does
Yeah.
conditioning consist of?
They
You got-
run them to death, they do ball drills, et cetera.
Okay, so that's.
They-
It's a 3-week window each year.
All sports,
Coaches
all
have
sports.
with their.
Yeah.
with their-
Well, our point is if, when we're gonna do this, so what we need to do is to schedule to do this early in June, it sounds to me like, to give time to get the work done, start some initial seeding, although it's not the best time to obviously seed grass, but maybe you could begin, but anyway, we can't wait. We're gonna have to do it sooner, we're gonna run into, that even narrows the window even more, what Rowdy
Well,
just
they
said.
could do that at the Lions Club
Well,
field or in the gymnasium even.
I agree, I mean, they could go to the baseball field or softball
Yeah.
field and do those things.
Right. Well, I thought even out there in the, right beside of it or something, but.
Yeah.
As long as you got some dirt with a little bit of grass, I mean, you don't want gravel or asphalt.
Oh, I didn't know whether they needed like their nets and stuff to make their.
Well, I was saying to Steve Rowley, the playing area, there is sufficient playing area, there's sufficient level playing area right now.
Mhm.
What you're extending sideways is to encompass them going out over the end line, giving them a little bit more space. So even if you're, like I said to you, if you're going to be seeding a few feet over there, they could still probably train and play on a slightly wider soccer field, I think. Because there's a good 8-9 feet on the one side, and there's the same on the other side. Plus, beyond the fence on the other side, I'm talking about the river side or the town side, there's a few more feet before it drops off. So you could even, I don't think the work would necessarily preclude them from conditioning or even training in August, I would think. You could just, you could rope it off kind of, you know?
We actually had Mr. Smith to go measure today. He was out and trying to determine when to start moving the fence and moving the dirt.
Right,
That
and
correct?
how wide, how
How
much wider
much?
does it need to be?
That's what we were trying to determine.
That's the question.
I mean,
10 or 12 more feet.
But we're ready to,
Like you say, the little ones are out there playing on Saturdays.
Yeah, but that should end by early June
Yeah,
at the
they
They
don't
latest.
just
have-
started their first game Saturday.
Yeah, but it's gonna be only like a
Yeah, it'll
5-week
be
season, I
finished
think.
in sometime in May.
It's the first week in June,
Yeah.
as soon as school's out, they're finished.
so and I asked Dana to do a timeline. I said, get a timeline as to when we need to start moving the dirt and find out how much, that you're need to widen, the field.
I
So-
believe this is the first meeting I've been at where we've discussed this. What's the plan, to widen the edges and extend the one end?
I think
We're
so.
just gonna widen it, right? And we're not talking about extending it, make it longer,
No.
we're just talking about widening.
Widening was the big concern, I think.
Right.
And Dana seemed to think it was more feasible to go towards the town rather than towards the high school because of the drain.
Right.
Well, that, and then
The road?
for the
And the
most
road.
part, the road and the spectators are typically moving on that side.
Well, you're gonna have to move, I mean, is there an aspect of this that involves bringing in more dirt?
Yes.
We have the dirt.
All right.
We have the
Dirt
dirt.
from the other end of the
Yes,
ball
it's just
field,
a matter,
okay.
but he is supposed to bring me a timeline as to, but he started today.
You have a pretty good sideline on the school side anyway.
Mhm.
You have probably 10 to 12 feet.
You have.
When I was on the other side, you have just a couple, 3 feet.
It's narrower, yeah.
But he did come back and report to us this evening, right before 4 o'clock this evening, where he had gone and measured the
Width.
one over the Lions Field and this one and trying to,
Great.
because he wanted to know exactly how many feet.
Yeah, Sean, is there enough room, in your opinion, on the high school side, out of bounds, that, or does that need to be?
Well, you guys.
How much?
Well, what you do, Jeff, you would move the inbound.
Right. I
Them over
understand.
instead of
How
moving
much
the
room
fence.
do we need?
Well, you moved the bleachers there last year briefly, when it looked like there was going to be a game, and they seemed to fit just fine. If you're going to put both squads on the school side, all they need is a bench, really, like Lions Club Field. You know, a bench maybe 6-7 feet back from the sideline.
And like Fred said, if you had to, you just
You
still
move
go
the
the other
outbound
way.
line instead of moving the fence.
Right. So what if we, I mean, if we were to go out there and add 15 more feet, is that, in your estimation, will it be?
I think it would. Do you?
An issue, one of the reasons that they continued to play Lions Field rather there was an issue, not necessarily with the smaller children, but with the high school ones as far as safety, you know, at full speed and, hit the
Right.
fence or something. That's part of what the reasoning behind it. That's not the, all, but that was part of it. So we want to make sure there's adequate space for those that are full speed.
Aren't there regulations somewhere that say your playing field is this size and you need this much run-out room?
Well, I'd say the state probably has a size for the field itself. but
Yeah,
I don't know that
think
they
there's
address that.
regulations on that.
Yeah.
I mean, out of bounds.
Right,
Yeah.
no, there's, not to my knowledge, and my oldest plays for Lincoln High School.
Mhm.
So we've seen all of the other fields around and they vary.
Well, it's just like any other sport, you know, you go to some high school gyms, and you see they've got a lot of, the
Yeah.
field, or the court itself is one size, and it's standard, but the out of bounds may vary.
But even at the Lions Club field, the benches on the home side are not far off the edge of the playing field.
It's tight. It's a little bit tight, but it's. I mean, it's. I don't think it's dangerous. I think
It's not
fine.
as tight as it is here with
No.
the benches on the opposite side.
You just need room for a linesman to run up and down the sideline.
That's where, if we're gonna make this modification, we need to, you know, just take everything we'll do to, you know, use as much space as we can, make it, you know, we're making a one-time thing, and that way you don't have to revisit it again.
But we actually met yesterday and had this discussion, but he, did go on out today and did the measuring and came back and reported, and we were in the discussion of him doing a timeline yesterday of moving the dirt and getting this project.
Do we have any idea of how many feet we're gonna widen it now, or is that still
Well, I
just
mean,
sort
that's
of?
my
that's what
question.
you
I mean, if we knew, I mean, if we'll add 15 feet, we'll go ahead and plan. Buy some additional fencing, of course.
Because that was his question, how much do we add? So,
Well, I'd involve the coaches
And the ROTC, because you're
Right.
going to be going near their
right.
obstacle course. That could
we
get
talked about that.
quickly.
Well, everything could be, moved. If it need be, maybe we'll have to. One, Carol. The superintendent's evaluation, we need to think about that, you all. The way we've been doing this in the past, and Tricia, a lot of it come on you, when you know, first, the way we've done it for Rowdy's information. In the fall, before September, the superintendent, the board establishes goals for the superintendent. This is required of all counties. And then, towards the end of the year, then you visit those goals and see how the superintendent's done on those. I think Brenda will, I was thinking about what revisions, you're gonna have to take Mr. McAllister and his name off there and put Mr. Baker's on there. But at the end, what we've done is we've had our one meeting where the superintendent presents to us documentation or information, whatever they call it, as to, you know, he looks at each goal and says, I've done this and here's why. So Trish really enjoys that. That's one of her favorite things to do.
We all love the critique.
Well, the first year we did it, she came in and there was a stack about this tall, about 2 foot sacks. And we said, you know, maybe that's a little bit more than we need to know. But that is kind of like, we've done that as a work session because typically it takes longer. Now, and then we come back, you know, maybe 3 weeks or whatever, a lot later. It's kind of up to us, but there is a deadline on it. And then at that point, okay, after this initial one that she's gone through each one, before she begins to do that, Brenda makes a copy of the evaluation goals themselves, and she usually gives us 2 or 3 copies, because, you know, you might want to make notes as as Trish is going through each one. And then, when we meet, let's say, a month later, each board member has completed their own evaluation of the superintendent. Now, all of this is done in executive session. And then we meet in executive session as a board without the superintendent present. And each one of us has completed that evaluation, how we feel. And then we meet as a board and we go through there and come to a consensus with one document reflecting each, you know, how our status on each one. And after we've done that, then we ask the superintendent to come into the meeting and we say, okay, here's what we've come up with. And then that gives the superintendent the opportunity to then interject things. Says, well, you know, you say this, but now you forgot that I did this. And then, you know, you can think through it again. And then, you know, in other words, it's always possible that our initial ratings that we've consistently developed change.
It could become better or worse.
Well, that's always a possibility. Or I remember this. But once, then she's had her opportunity to have input in that. At that point, then we, you know, we formalize it among ourselves. Once again, this is all done in executive session as to how the superintendent has done on accomplishing the goals we set for this year. After that's over, we come out in the public and we make a statement as to, just a general statement as to how that went. We don't get specific. I'll let you hang out that.
No, other than you all did make me dense. So this year will be even less.
We didn't make you, we just suggested.
I suggested
Happy
it.
to carry it on.
Okay.
But anyway, what we have to do is, you know, a lot of people, when it's good for you, you know, what's a good time for you to get all this together?
What's the timeline?
It all has to be completed by June the 30th.
We have that on the calendar, right? The date for the finalization, isn't it on the school calendar?
I think it's on there.
On your meeting calendar?
Yeah, I think it's already been scheduled.
It's already been established.
I don't
Well,
recall.
probably not the work session.
No, not the work session.
Well, I mean, are you, see, because the second one is a regular meeting, right? I mean, we actually do meet as a board and do that. I mean, it doesn't have to be, it could be separate. We've been doing it as a part of it. The first one is usually a work session. She goes through the documentation.
All of you guys.
Then the second one, when we actually, you know, meet and come to a consensus as part of a regular board meeting.
But it's executive session.
But well, we need to, Mr. Wilkerson is on the ball here this evening. He's gonna tell us when it is, then that'll help us decide when the first one needs to be.
June 17th, evaluation of the superintendent completed.
Okay, so that's the 17th.
17th of June, 6 p.m.
Okay, So, based on that, Trish, now, we don't have to decide this tonight, but,
Right, I'll look at it.
yeah, you look and
How,
see.
how many weeks will you all need
For us
to,
to-
after we do the work session? You need 1 week, 2 weeks?
The
3
last-
days, 2 days?
Last times, it's been about 3 weeks, but, I mean, I don't think we really have to have that. But once again, it's really, a lot depends on what's the time. I know we're at the end of the school year and things like that. But if you would allow us 2 weeks, I think that'd be sufficient. What you all think?
Okay.
But you come up and tell us, you know, when you think, so we now know the end date. If you can just give us your suggestion, because we're gonna have to look at Rowdy's schedule and what's good for him too, so you might, he's hard to deal with, so you have a couple of
No, I have,
options.
Mr. President, I have a block of time there too. I
Okay.
may not be here.
All right.
You're sending me to Morgantown for 3 days during that month, remember?
It's not us that are sending you.
Yes, it is.
And we've already, we've made that trip.
And everyone who's made that trip has told me how
Fun.
interesting and enjoyable and fun it's going to be.
It's a wonderful 3 days.
So you all.
And you don't get paid for it either.
Yeah,
That's,
I'll work at night.
We will pay your expenses.
I'll work at night.
You'll be up here in your home territory.
I'll come next week with some dates.
Okay, that'll be great. Okay, all right. Okay, anything else from anybody? Carol, Rowdy, you guys, Trish, anything?
If we finished with the comments, I'd like to move for a very, very brief executive session to discuss.
Okay,
some
nothing,
personnel matters.
so there's nothing else that we want to discuss in public committee, am I right? Trish, or anything else? Okay, all right. So that, at that point, then, I'll entertain Mr. Wilkerson's motion for an executive session for a personnel matter. You have a motion, or Mr. Wilkerson made a motion, do I have a second? Mr. Curry, second. Is that all yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the board's going to go into executive session at 6:55.